attending Design Conversion webinar, the top 5 ways to make your value prop perform. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Please note you are in listen-only mode. If you do have questions, you can use the question box on the right-hand side of your screen on the GoToWebinar navigation. We are going to be very respectful of your time, so we will keep this session to about 20 minutes, and we will answer questions at the end. So with further ado, this is Design for Conversion webinar, top 5 ways to make your value prop perform. Our goal is to have you leave this session with some takeaways that you can take to your very next meeting and implement immediately. My name is Leah Avare-Smith. I'm the Director of Digital Services at Anderson Direct and Digital, and today our guest speaker is Raina Probst, our User Experience Specialist. So Design for Conversion, isn't it all about the click? Well, there are many aspects for designing for conversion that are all very important, such as search, navigation, content, visual hierarchy, and calls to action, and also value proposition, which is what we're going to focus on today. Real quickly, let's define what a value prop is. It's the key reason why customers should pay attention to you and take the action you want them to take. It is not the taglines and mission statements that support a brand's identity, and it is not the unique selling proposition which focuses on what makes your brand better than the competition. Why the value prop matters it's because it's a brand's value prop is the fundamental relationship it has between the brand and the customers. The value prop sets the tone and the context of the entire interaction you will have with your brand. So a poor communication of that value prop, it can't really be overcome by design tactics. So how we communicate our value prop can help us or hurt us at every point in our funnel. So today we're going to talk about 5 key attributes of the value prop that drive that conversion. And now, without further ado, I will hand it over to Raina Probst.
Thank you, Leah. The 5 points that we're going to talk about today are clarity, value, fit, credibility, and action. And for each of these, I'm going to talk through them, give you a couple of recommendations for each, and then we will look at a not so good and a better example so that you know what to look for. The first one we're going to talk about is clarity. Now, by clarity, what I mean is clarity trumps cleverness. You only have a few seconds to connect with the visitor to your site and make yourself understood. And the clarity of that value prop has to happen immediately. Your value prop should be clear, simple, and instantly readable. And if there's any doubt, test it. And that could be anything from formal user testing to testing it with colleagues or even family members. And this means you can be creative and you can be clever in your branding, but don't sacrifice the clarity of your value prop messaging in those precious few seconds that you have. Let's look at an example that does not quite come through with clarity. This is a Tide laundry detergent, and they have a bit of a tagline here on the left, pop of power that attracts attention, and their message on the right is difficult to read and comprehend very easily in those first few seconds. 3 chambers, 3x the stain removal power, and user testing has shown that combining numbers and letters in a message like this actually tests quite poorly. By contrast, here's another example of a cleaning product here, and they deliver their message instantly and clearly. Powerful cleaning for less. Doesn't get much clearer than that. And that's a value prop delivered wonderfully in 4 words. And Brian Clark of Copyblogger talks about clarity by saying people smartly employ aggressive attention filters when scanning headlines, and you'll get through the filters of a lot more people if you spell out the benefits rather than relying on implication. So to recap that, don't make implications, don't be clever, spell it out. Clarity trumps cleverness. Next we'll talk about value, and this is a really, really important one. A value prop is ultimately a promise of value. And when I say value, I'm not just talking about benefits. Everyone So my recommendation is make sure you're promising a meaningful benefit to the customer and that you're also addressing in some way a real or perceived cost. An example here, Benchmark Email Marketing. This is a very well-designed site, but their headline here, the best email marketing tool, is a very functional statement. And their subheadline, use Benchmark to create and send email campaigns, again, is another functional statement. But it's not addressing actual benefit, and it's not addressing perceived cost or effort. If you compare that to a competitor site, Vertical Response, you see that immediately they address both. We make it easy to grow your business. Grow your business is a very important benefit, and we make it easy addresses that perception of cost or effort. And David Ogilvy says that on average 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body copy. It follows that unless your headline sells your product, you've wasted 90% of your money. The headlines which work best are those which promise the reader a benefit. So it's important to take a step back and make sure that you are promising benefit and perceived cost so that your value prop is in fact value. Next we'll talk a little bit about fit. And what I mean by fit is the value that you're promising, is that addressing the actual needs of the customer who's perceiving it? If there's not a good fit, your conversion is going to suffer. And what that means is you need to do the work to understand your customer's actual needs and pains. Don't make assumptions about it. There is a lot of research out there. You can do your own research or use secondary research, but be sure you understand those needs and pains, and then take a look at your value prop and make sure that it speaks directly to those needs or alleviates those pains. Here's an example from Orbitz for Business, a business travel service. Their statement, powering the next generation of corporate travel, doesn't actually speak to a need that this particular target audience might have. And even further down in their page, they mention travelers' needs a couple of ways, but they don't speak to how they're alleviating any of the pains or needs of corporate travelers. As compared to this next example, another corporate travel site, if you see Global Corporate Travel Management there, their subheadline is Experienced Agents, Advanced Travel Technology, Lowest Fares in the Market. Those are very clearly spelling out the value and the needs that they're addressing. One of my favorite quotes in all of my career in user experience is from Arnie Lund, know the user and you are not the user. And what that means is a lot of times messaging on a site is determined in a conference room full of marketers without the real user's needs and pains playing a part in that. So I recommend get out of your conference room and connect with your audience, find out what their needs and pains are. Next, we'll talk about credibility. Credibility is a holy grail of marketing, right? Be sincere. While a value prop can't create credibility by itself, a poorly communicated value prop can hurt it. customers are very savvy, and they're also very suspicious and doubtful. So if you give them any reason at all to doubt your sincerity, your credibility will suffer. So my recommendations would be to avoid extreme language like best, always, first, fastest. Those are claims that are easy to doubt. And whenever possible, draw on positive sentiment coming from the outside. That could be from customer ratings and reviews, awards, outside measurements. Those sorts of things can give you credibility coming in from the outside. Let's look at an example here. Xfinity is an entertainment service, and you can see here on their homepage, their headline is the best entertainment experience. And then additionally, on the right-hand side, they have claims like best in TV and internet, one of a kind, fastest in-home Wi-Fi. That's a difficult one to believe. So all of these over-the-top claims are giving potential customers a lot of doubt that these things could be true. We'll compare that with Verizon Fios. Their main messaging is on the power and speed of their offering as well, but you can see pretty prominently lower on the page they bring in a review from PC Mag that is actually reiterating their claim of speed, and then some measurements that actually compare them to competitors, offering some transparency from the outside into their claim of speed. Very well done. And a quote from Edward R. Murrow, "To be persuasive, we must be believable. To be believable, we must be credible. And to be credible, we must be truthful." I love that quote, and it is really important that in that few seconds that you're communicating your value prop, that you do that in a sincere and authentic way. Lastly, we're going to talk about action. You wouldn't believe how many sites I've seen in my career where the actual action that is desired from the user is nowhere to be found. You can never assume that your customer knows what you want them to do. You don't want to have a page that overwhelms them with 5 or 6 or worse options to pick from, or give them none at all, and that does happen more often than you'd think. So take a step back and identify the highest priority action you want customers to take. What's the one thing, the top thing that you want to do? And then make sure you ask them to do it. Spell it out explicitly. Ask them to take that action. Here's an example from a hospital site. You can see their primary message there on the home page has a Learn More button. Not a particularly compelling action to take. And then that same call to action is repeated 3 more times along the bottom of the page. So you have a number of different pathways into this site, all of which say learn more, and they all go to different places. So that's a very fragmented experience right from the start. As compared to another hospital site here, you can see both from their messaging and from their visual hierarchy that find a healthcare provider is the action they're actually wanting you to take, and they've repeated that in the header and in their primary messaging spot. And it's okay to have secondary actions like a learn more over on the left, but it's very clear and very spelled out the action that they're asking of their potential customers. Ernest Hemingway said, "Never mistake motion for action." And you can get people to your site and you can get them to look around, but you have to ask them to take action. So just to recap for you a little bit, the top 5 ways to make your value prop perform, these points that you can take with you to start implementing right away. Number 1 is clarity. Clear, simple statements trump cleverness every time. Number 2 is value. Make sure that you address benefit and cost. Number 3 is fit. Ensure that there's a good fit between customer needs and the value that you promise. Number 4 is credibility. Don't let over-the-top value prop hurt your credibility. And lastly, action. Stay focused on the desired action and ask for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raina. Thank you. Thank you. We will open up the floor to questions. Again, you can use your screen to ask a question. We have one here, Raina. Is there any difference or other considerations to take into account for B2B organizations, or one that provides service rather than selling products?
That's an excellent question. The important thing to remember is that when you're communicating with a target audience, whether that is an end customer, business partner, you've asked them to engage with you. You've asked them to you're asking them to take an action to engage with your brand, and there has to be real value in it for them. And the value prop is that moment when you get to tell them, here is the value that I'm promising you in exchange for you coming with me and taking the next step. And so that the value prop is still there, and the criticality of communicating it well is the same. It's just a matter of, what are the benefits you're offering slightly different in the way you want to communicate them? And is the cost or effort that you're addressing, is the nature of that different depending on your business? And so the components are there. You just need to look at both of them and communicate them clearly.
Thank you, Raina, and thank you to everybody who attended. For those questions that we did not answer, we will get back to you after this meeting.